Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Oh, Kent's Movie Club. It's Kent's Movie Club. Kent's Movie Club. It's Kent's Movie Club.
I missed it. I missed my own cue.
Yeah, you were a little off.
Yeah, that's all right. I did that a long time ago in my closet. Yes, when we were still doing the shows from home. We couldn't do any production in building, so I kind of played with it there. And
you played with it in your closet? That's kind of.
I was going to say, I would like phrase that differently.
Yeah,
not closet references.
Kent, Ravi is here. You just can't see him.
I'm working on it. I forgot.
If you hear another voice, it's Ravi in the background.
Well, this week, Kent, we went with The Highwaymen, which is a movie on Netflix. It was originally supposed to be a big picture movie, or a big theater, studio movie. The writer had it in mind for Robert Redford and Paul Newman to play the lead characters. This is going back about 15 years or so.
I was going to say, so that tells you how long it sat around.
So it'd been sitting around. They'd been having some problems. Well, finally, Netflix got a hold of it, and then Costner and Woody Harrelson got cast, and they eventually made the film. And just a quick synopsis: it's basically about the two of the lawmen who tracked down and eventually killed Bonnie and Clyde in 1934. After they went on their, 2.5 year burglary, robbery, murder spree around, central and southern United States. And I don't know what you thought, Kent, but the first thing that always gets me about these, when Woody Harrelson plays these types of characters, the gruff, old, devil may care type character, for some reason it just fits him to a T. It almost reminded me of watching Zombieland a little bit, just in kind of the mannerisms and stuff. Obviously he's not, the exact same character, but anytime you put Woody Harrelson in that role, to me, it's entertaining.
And he's good at that. And that's a good role for Costner too.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and those two guys were executive producers. I don't know if you noted that in the credit.
I did not.
Well, what that says is they signed on early enough to say, we're going to help get this thing made, right? Otherwise, the thing might not have gotten made at all without those two. That would be the indication of that. The interesting thing about this movie, the things that I really liked about it is that it didn't glamorize Bonnie and Clyde. Because every one of these gangster movies you see glamorizes the gangsters. Bonnie and Clyde were small time. They knocked over gas stations and stuff. They weren't, contrary to popular opinion, they weren't big time bank robbers or anything. They were, they did a few, and then they killed a lot of police officers or sheriffs or whatever. And they were bad people, and they were not they don't show up a lot in a movie, and they don't have one line of dialogue.
Yeah, in fact,
I think Bonnie says something. Yeah, Bonnie says something to her or to him.
That's the only line of dialogue for them, so it doesn't glamorize them. The other thing is that, from what I know, and I'm certainly not an expert on this, but I've read a few books on. I'm kind of interested in that whole 30s gang, organized crime era, kind of stuff. I've read some books, and it seemed to be fairly accurate as to what happened. I suppose there's some things that they changed to make it more, movie like.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I think it was fairly accurate, right down to the fact that the governor had disbanded the Texas Rangers and didn't like Frank Hamer, who is by far the most decorated Texas Ranger ever.
And that's the character that Costner plays.
Costner's character.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true. And then she took credit for what he did afterwards. Which,
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, and that was the other. You talk about the accuracy in it. They actually shot.
I was going to say that.
The
I saw
shooting
that,
scene on the road that Bonnie and Clyde were killed on, and they
Oh,
went
really?
too far. Yeah, they
I
actually
didn't know
Covered
that.
the pavement in dirt.
Yeah, they covered the whole pavement in dirt, and they shot it on the same road that the actual killings happened.
Wow.
So they went to quite detail, and I'm always fascinated, with these period movies, just how. Sometimes I find myself looking for things that, okay, that doesn't belong here, or that doesn't belong here. There wasn't any of that in there. It was a very good a period piece. I mean, you felt like you were in 1934. But going back to the point you made about Bonnie and Clyde, this is totally told from the lawman's perspective, which flips the script on a lot of these types of films. Obviously, Public Enemies, which was about the John Dillinger gang, was told from mostly his perspective.
Right.
Dillinger's perspective.
Is that the Johnny Depp one?
That's the Johnny Depp
I never
one.
saw that one.
It's a decent movie.
It is. It's a good movie. But you see Bonnie's face once when she point blank ranges the cop mid-movie. You don't see his face. You don't see Clyde's face until they die.
Mhm.
You know,
You're right.
that
I didn't
moment
even
where the
think
car
that. You're right.
Costner's there with the Tommy gun ready to go, says hands up, and they show the scene, and you've got Bonnie and Clyde. That's the first time and the only time you see his face.
Yep.
I thought that part. I was intrigued to find out how much of that was done. I mean, it was obviously done on purpose, but I thought it was a kind of a good tactic if this was what they were actually going for, because the whole movie is trying to find these guys. So the mysteriousness of not just what they look like, of just not getting eyes on them or being able to see them for most of the movie, and then having this great reveal at the end. You kind of, as a viewer of the movie, you probably had, obviously not as much, but a little bit of the same feeling as these people did who were hunting them down. Finally got a look at their face and was like, oh my God, that's what they look like. There they are. So it gave you that kind of same gut feeling as a viewer, waiting to see what these people look like and waiting to see if they're going to find them, which obviously if you knew anything about the story, you knew they were going to find them. But it really helped kind of bring that scene. I mean, like my heart, I liked the movie. I didn't think it was phenomenal, but that scene was great. And it put that feeling in my gut and was like, oh boy, this is intense.
Yeah. Wouldn't have been much of a movie if they hadn't caught him.
Yeah.
Well, it would have left room for a sequel, certainly. Yeah. I guess the drawback would be, because most of these types of movies are told from the gangster's perspective, there's usually a lot more action because, it's crime, escape. This is mostly kind of, more, the investigation, trying to track them down. There's not a ton of action scenes, until you get to the end. And so
they made up for it though, didn't they?
Oh yeah, they definitely made up for it there at the end when they Swiss cheese that car. So I suppose that would be the one drawback. But if it was the intent to try to get as close to the actual story as possible, it wasn't a shoot 'em up situation the whole way through.
And and I think that's true. And the other thing that they did, and I'm sure, and I think this contributed to that, what you're talking about, feeling kind of a lack of tension in the movie, is it isn't quite a full-on police procedural, right? Because those can be really kind of tense, even if there's not a bunch of action in it. And it wasn't quite a full-on character study of the two cops, right? It was kind of trying to put those two things together. And that made it a little bit flabby in a way, right? Like when you'd have those expository scenes like, this one was actually the last one, but it's the one that I remember most, was when they're sitting there playing cards and Costner's sitting on the porch, and Woody Harrelson tells the story of when they killed all those people in Texas and, you know, killed 50 guys and didn't tell them to hold their hands up and all that. That's character study kind of stuff. And it was interesting, and I understand why you put it in the movie, but it takes the movie in one direction, and it comes back to being a police, right? Goes back and forth, and that builds in a little flab. And it could, in my view, it could have been tightened. You could have edited. What was that? 2 hour and 10-minute movie?
Yeah.
You could have probably taken 20 minutes out of that movie and not lost anything.
Yet at the same time, you could make the argument that maybe something like that would have been better earlier in the film to give the characters more depth.
I agree there too.
Because we didn't, you know, as you mentioned from the outset, the character of Frank Hamer, who is played by Kevin Costner, is one of the most decorated law officers in the country's history, but you don't really get a feeling of that, and just, you know, to what lengths he did to get that way until almost the very end of the film when Woody Harrelson tells this backstory.
Yep. Getting back to the accuracy part, I really liked the ending where they showed the actual
parade
and the pictures of the real people, and here's what
and the
happened,
credits,
and all of that. Oh, you know, I thought that was terrific. You know, because a lot of times these historical movies don't do that because they're not historical enough to really do it, right? They make up characters and they, you know, change things so much. And they were able to do it. I thought this was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. And like you can't, like I'm interested in that time period and like that, just those types of like old timey, like the Starkweather type stuff. It always fascinates me what these people did and went through. And so I didn't know a ton about the Bonnie and Clyde story. I knew a little bit, but right when it was done, I started like reading up a bunch at on all these different pages and the FBI.gov website and checking out all this stuff. And because like I was like, did they really parade them through the town? And sure enough, they did. Like back then, there just weren't like rules about that stuff. And the fact that these two were also Texas Rangers, they just didn't give a crap. But it was fascinating. And you're right, like the car, down to the color of the car and the rims and the number of bullet holes in the side of it. It was crazy how accurate it was. And there were times in the movie where I was like, there's no way that this actually happened this way. And I was wrong. It was,
but it did. And you know, you got the
FBI comes off real good in this movie.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of interesting when you think about it, you know, how we're in an era where we're question a lot of what police activity is all about. And there was a celebrity level to these two. I mean, Bonnie and Clyde were seen as celebrities to a lot of people.
Absolutely, they were.
People wouldn't talk to the cops because they like believed in what they were doing for whatever reason.
Yeah,
like,
even though it's not like they were playing Robin Hood, they were stealing from the rich to give to the poor. They were just these outlaws who lived this adventuresome life, and they became glamorized in the media.
In the middle of the Depression, where, you know, I mean, you can see some reason why that would have happened, I guess.
Yeah,
but it was
kind of thing.
Distrust of government,
kind of a direct result of the way everything was covered by those old newspapers when every town had what were there at that time in Lincoln? I think 5 newspapers. 4 or 5 newspapers, 4 or 5 in Omaha. Well, everybody's going to come up with a different story because so then you really build this stuff up. Oh, and Stibbs, if you ever want to talk Starkweather, give me a call. I'm the institutional memory of Charles Starkweather at the Journal-Star now, proving only that I'm old.
Well, I mean, you know, Kent was there, you know, covering it for the Star at that time.
No. Don Walton, who still works at the paper, he did cover.
Did he? Okay.
When he was in college, he covered the end of the Starkweather stuff.
I was also fascinated with Cortis's thing in the World Herald about what's his name, the kid in Omaha who went on that tear. No, it wasn't Starkweather. He started in. He killed his parents in.
I read
Exarban.
I said
it was like a 6-part thing that was in like every Sunday for like a month.
Yeah, I read that.
I missed that.
What the hell was that kid's name?
He
He escaped from jail and then he went on like this run. It was very Starkweather-esque.
Right.
It was fascinating, but the house still stands off of like 68th and Pacific, right by Exarban, where he shot his
Really?
parents, stole his
Stole the
mom's
car,
car because he wouldn't let her go to the movies with his girlfriend.
Yeah,
and
it was
so
all,
he killed his parents and bounced, and it's fascinating.
It was all because they wouldn't let him go out with his girlfriend. So he killed them, took their money,
and he kept it all secret for weeks.
Yeah.
He buried them in the backyard, and like when neighbors would ask, he'd be like, "Oh, they went to visit my grandma," and they were just.
Didn't he have like a little sibling too?
Yeah, I don't remember it all.
It was crazy.
It was a crazy. You'd love it, Ken. Yeah,
I'll track that down. I didn't ever see that.
It was fascinating.
Yeah, when you Google Omaha killing spree, the only thing that comes up is Nico Jenkins.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
Which I'm trying to find it here. I'm still looking.
Oh, that's annoying because I was like all in on this thing when it was out.
Yeah, I remember reading that when it came out.
All right, well, you continue to look that up because this would be a new one to me. It does make you wonder because there's been been quite a few things in pop culture made for TV movies about Starkweather. You almost wonder, are we almost due for another telling of that story, or is enough things, is that not interesting anymore?
It's Leslie Arnold.
Question. The last one was that Murder in the Heartland
TV movie.
I believe it was miniseries with Tim Roth played Starkweather
about 20 years ago.
25 years actor. Yeah, and I thought that was a really good and fairly accurate movie. Interestingly enough, they were going to film it in Nebraska, and I got hired a little bit to help track down some of the production stuff. And they were going to try to film it in February, and it was still when they were shooting on film. You can't shoot film when it's that cold.
Oh.
So they moved it to Texas.
Well, now with everything being digital these days, they could have
They could do it fine, but that was still film. So because it sent like streaks up through the film because it's so cold.
Kent, the name of that kid in Omaha, it was Leslie Arnold.
Yeah,
never heard of it. I will look that up.
You can Google his name in Omaha.
Google The Mystery of Leslie Arnold. That's the name of the series. You'll find it. It's back
from 2017, September.
In the World Herald.
Cool.
It's very good. This guy escaped to the little house.
It's fascinating.
And I believe they never caught him. He escaped jail
and he
completely disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah.
I looked that up. I never heard of that.
All right. Well, that is The Highwaymen. It is streaming on Netflix. We're going to stay with Netflix next week. Josh's pick, he's not here with us today, but in honor of the now late Chadwick Boseman, Da 5 Bloods is one of his last movies.
You said you had seen, right, Kent?
Yeah, I reviewed it when it came out on Netflix. It's really good.
I'm excited.
Well, we'll
really good.
We will do that one next week in the movie club,
and then we can discuss Nebraska's season opening win.
Yes. You know what? It's the Friday before what should have been the first game. I can't live without him. We need to get a prediction for the game this week, ladies and gentlemen. Evil Kent, what happens tomorrow?
I could see 52-38 or something like that. Probably Nebraska.
I've missed Evil Kent.
We need him. God bless him. Well, Kent, with Ravi, we've used quite a bit of time, but NBA conversation last night. You got the Celtics getting nipped at the end. Here's a question for both of you, because my son is a Bucks guy. Do the Bucks survive to Labor Day?
Well, that's a good question.
That would be a sweep because they play Sunday.
So I say yes, but I don't think they make it out of the round.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I have I will take credit for this, and Sipple will confirm this. I've been on Miami since this thing started, and he was like, nah, 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 nah. And I'm like, Miami's really good, and they're playing really well.
Kent, I think Boston's been the best team in the playoffs so far.
I'd agree with that.
Does what happened last night change that at all for you?
No. I think that's the one game they lose in this series.
I think it might go 6, maybe, because the Raptors are pretty good, but I still think Boston's the best team that we've seen.
But the Raptors got no closer anymore, and that's going to kill them against a good. It is killing them against a good team. Although I think the best team left is going to be the Lakers by the time it comes to the end, and they are. Look out, Houston! You're going to get pounded.
Yeah,
Houston goes out there and tries to play small ball against the Lakers. Yeah. Here you've got a bunch of 6'5" guys. Now try to guard LeBron and Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard all at the same time, boys. Good luck.
Well, and the thing, especially with Anthony Davis, I mean, Anthony Davis is not only bigger, but he's also more athletic than PJ Tucker. So it's not like PJ Tucker can outquick him. I mean, Anthony Davis is going to run roughshod over those guys.
Yeah, I think that's going to be 4-0 goodbye quickly, that one.
Well, we'll see what happens.
We can go on the rest of the afternoon if you'd like.
There's hockey to watch, Kent. Sorry.
That's right. We're getting ready for the second period here and exciting game 7.
There's already been 3 goals scored in 3 minutes.
Nothing says exciting like putting a game 7 in the middle of the afternoon on a Friday on USA Network. So,
ladies and gentlemen, hockey.
So dumb.
Well, Kent, we'll look forward to Defy Bloods next week, which is streaming on Netflix, starring Chadwick Boseman. Kent, have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the press box.
Maybe in January.
Exactly.
Thank you,
care. Kent. There he is, Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star. Defy Bloods streaming right now on Netflix. We go back to Vietnam movies.
Yeah.
War movies. So there you go. I liked the Highwaymen. I enjoyed it.
I liked it even more than I thought I might. Like, I didn't think I would like it.
I was exactly like you. As soon as I got done, I immediately went in and started.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know a lot about Bonnie and Clyde.
I didn't either. I knew their names. I knew they went on a crazy little spree, and I knew that they were kind of
like famous.
Like people liked them for some reason. Yeah.
Well, that whole era, you had Dillinger, who was popular. You had Pretty Boy Floyd, who was popular, and Bonnie and Clyde were popular.
Well, I think it's just before that you had Capone, who was like the most famous person in America at one point.
Yeah.
And kind of beloved, even though he's this
horrible,
ruthless murderer.
Yeah.
Right?
No, he was. He was very popular.
Yeah. It's weird. And Kent brought this up at the beginning of the interview. It's weird how so many of the movies do glorify that lifestyle, the criminal lifestyle. And like, I remember watching Breaking Bad, and you have this basically just horrible drug kingpin, right? By the end, that's what Walter White is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And over and over, I'm just like, gosh, Skyler, quit being such a drag and let him do his thing. And like, she's literally the most normal person in that show.
I know.
Like, she's the bad guy because she's like, honey, I don't want you to be a drug kingpin
because she's
anymore.
going against the bad guy who you like.
And
right? Yeah.
In real life, she's the one that's normal and in the right.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're watching this show, you're like, oh, lay off him, Skyler. Just let him do his thing.
And back then, that's essentially what they're doing. It's not on television, but they're reading the papers and they're watching this show. Bonnie and Clyde was their entertainment.
Yeah.
So they were just rooting for him. They're like, I want to read the next story. This is wild.
I think a lot of it is because, like Kent was saying, with you had so many newspapers in each city, they would sensationalize things so dramatically that I'm guessing it probably washed over some of the grittier details and amplified some of the sexier aspects of what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so it made it easier to root for these people because you didn't see them as the ruthless killers that they were.
Exactly.
You're just like, oh, they're on an adventure and they love each other. And or it's they've killed 70 people, but
because if they get arrested or get shot, the story's over.
Yes. And so,
so you want to keep the series.
You want to see the next episode. Yeah. Want to read the next episode. Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was corny at times. It had its kind of like the dialogue moments between Costner and Harrelson, who I thought carried it, especially through the slow parts. They were really good. But there's kind of the one-liners that you'd get in like cop type movies that I'd kind of chuckle like, oh, of course. But for the most part, I enjoyed it, and I thought the ending was very good.
Yes. All right. We'll come back, and it's closing down on a 1 beer Friday. We're going to try something new today. Let's try something new today. Coming up on 1620 The Zone.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Kugler Vision. Today, coming into work,